Mr. Howard, do you condemn these stories about flowers and dinners and chocolates?
Yes, and they do not come from my campaign team. Let me make that absolutely clear. And my understanding is that the journalist who wrote the story in the Daily Mail, to which you have referred, has confirmed that he did not speak to anyone in or near my campaign team before he wrote that article.
Clearly they came from somebody sympathetic to you, though.
Well, not necessarily at all. I've no idea who they came from. If you look at the article as a whole, it's not a particularly sympathetic piece.
Would you agree that such stories are cheap and nasty and bring shame on anyone who spreads them?
I don't think we should be wasting anybody's time talking about stories like that. I don't think they should ever have appeared in the public prints, and I don't think we should waste our time talking about them. There are serious issues to be discussed since they've been raised about the dismissal of Derek Lewis as head of the prison service, a decision which I had to take in the light of an independent report, not mentioned in your introduction, which came to the conclusion that there were inexcusable weaknesses in the management of the prison service from top to bottom.
Why did you bawl out Anne Widdecombe for sending flowers in what she calls a Christian gesture to Mrs. Lewis?
I didn't, as she indeed has just confirmed.
Well, she said you were extremely...
She said I didn't bawl her out.
She said, she objected to the words bawl out, but she said you were extremely agitated about it.
I thought it was an inappropriate thing to do, given that I had just dismissed Mrs. Lewis's husband. But I hope we're not going to spend this interview talking about flowers and things like that.
Mr. Howard, have you ever lied in any public statement?
Certainly not. I gave a very full account of the dismissal of Derek Lewis to the House of Commons Select Committee and to the House of Commons itself in a debate that took place. There can have been few decisions that have been subjected to more close and minute scrutiny in recent years than that decision. It was a decision that it was necessary for me to take after terrorists had escaped from Whitemoor, other dangerous prisoners had escaped from Parkhurst, and an independent report had found that there were serious weaknesses in the management of the prison service from top to bottom.
Is there anything you would wish to change about your statement to the House of Commons or any other public statement you made about this matter?
No, nothing.
Not a word?
I gave a full account of what had happened in relation to my decision.
Right. Can you help us with this then? You stated in your statement that the leader of the opposition had said that I, that is you, personally told Mr. Lewis the governor of Parkhurst should be suspended immediately, that when Mr. Lewis objected, as it was an operational matter, I threatened to instruct him to do it. Derek Lewis says, Howard had certainly told me that the governor of Parkhurst should be suspended and had threatened to overrule me. Are you saying Mr. Lewis is lying?
I have given a full account of this, and the position is what I told the House of Commons. And let me tell you what the position is.
So you are saying that Mr. Lewis lied?
Let me tell you exactly what the position is. I was entitled to be consulted.
Yes.
And I was consulted. I was entitled to express an opinion. I did express an opinion. I was not entitled to instruct Derek Lewis what to do, and I did not instruct him what to do. And you will understand and recall that Mr. Marriott was not suspended. He was moved, and Derek Lewis told the Select Committee of the House of Commons that it was his opinion, Derek Lewis's opinion, that he should be moved immediately. That is what happened.
Mr. Lewis says, I, that is Mr. Lewis, told him what we had decided about Marriott and why he, that is you, exploded. Simply moving the governor was politically unpalatable. It sounded indecisive. It would be seen as a fudge. If I did not change my mind and suspend Marriott, he would have to consider overruling me.
Mr. Marriott...
You can't both be right.
Mr. Marriott was not suspended. I was entitled to express my views. I was entitled to be consulted.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
I was not entitled to instruct Derek Lewis, and I did not instruct him. And
did you threaten to overrule him?
The truth of the matter is that Mr. Marriott was not suspended.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
I did not overrule Derek Lewis.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
I took advice on what I could or could not do.
Did you threaten to overrule him, Mr. Howard?
And I acted scrupulously in accordance with that advice. I did not overrule Derek Lewis.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
Mr. Marriott was not suspended.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
I have accounted for my decision to dismiss Derek Lewis.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
Detail before the House of Commons.
I note you're not answering the question whether you threatened to overrule him.
The important aspect of this, which it's very clear to bear in mind...
I'm sorry, I'm going to be frightfully rude, but...
Yes, you can...
I'm sorry. It's a quick, straight yes or no.
Question and I will give you an answer.
Did you threaten to overrule him?
I discussed this matter with Derek Lewis. I gave him the benefit of my opinion. I gave him the benefit of my opinion in strong language. But I did not instruct him because I was not entitled to instruct him. I was entitled to express my opinion, and that is what I did.
With respect, that is not answering the question of whether you threatened to overrule him.
It's dealing with the relevant point, which is what I was entitled to do and what I was not entitled to do. And I have dealt with this in detail before the House of Commons and before the Select Committee.
But with respect, you haven't answered the question whether you threatened to overrule him.
Well, you see, the question is, what was I entitled to do and what was I not entitled to do? I was not entitled to instruct him, and I did not do that.
Right. We'll leave that aspect there and move on to this question of your bid for the leadership of the party. Wouldn't a reasonable person conclude that someone who is unable even to unify a very small ministerial team in less than 2 weeks of losing office is quite incapable of unifying a party?
I think that there will be many of my colleagues who will understand that we have to take some tough decisions if we are to recover the fortunes of our party. And if you are to take tough decisions, that means that you won't always be able to obtain unanimous agreement. I had to overrule Anne Widdecombe on the question of the dismissal of Derek Lewis in the light of an independent report which said that there were serious weaknesses in the management of the prison service from top to bottom. And I was prepared to take that decision. It was not an easy decision to take because I thought it was my duty to take that decision in the interests of the public.
If the rest of your ministerial team failed to come out and support you for the leadership, would you then be prepared to concede that you perhaps don't have the capability of unifying your party?
Well, the minister who has worked longest and closest with me for a period of 5 years, both at the Department of the Environment and the Home Office, is one of my strongest supporters and a leading member of my campaign team. Other ministers who've worked very closely with me are strong supporters and in my campaign team. My 2 PPSs that I've had during the time that I've been Home Secretary are strong supporters of mine and in my campaign team. So I think if you look at most of those who've worked very closely with me, you will find that they are amongst my strongest supporters.
Do you seriously expect to be leader of your party?
I think that those in the party who will understand that there is a need for tough decisions to be taken will see that I have taken those tough decisions. I have never shirked the responsibility for taking those decisions, and I think that that is something which they will take very seriously into account when they come to make their decisions.
Michael Howard, thank you.
Thank you.